Tyler Shuck would be 1. Mariota, if he plays, would be 2. And then it gets a little dicey about who's 3, but I have Bryce Young 3rd, just with the hope that Seattle's missing a couple guys defensively, and he's going to have to throw. And for the most part, when he's had to throw this season, he's had a good fantasy day. So I don't expect him to be a top 12 quarterback, but comparing him to Kirk Cousins versus the Rams and um, McCarthy, if he plays, we'll see how that's going to go. That's somebody I think we could consider against Detroit. But um, Cam Ward, I don't know how many people are going to want to trust him. So it's really just a 1 and then maybe a 2 and then potentially a third option for this week. But Tyler Shuck would be the one you want to go get.
Shuck is at Tennessee. Obviously, it's a great matchup. Shuck's getting you about 20, 21 fantasy points most weeks. Marcus Mariota against Dallas on Thursday, and Bryce Young against Seattle. And I didn't mention Seattle's injuries. So first of all, they have linebacker Derek Hall suspended 1 game. They're not going to be without 3 defensive backs. They're definitely going to be without 1. Colby Bryant, their safety. I think Eamon Wari, their other safety, is fine. They have Julian Love too. They're pretty deep there, I would say. Reek Willen is the one that's the question mark right now. So they could be without only 1 of the 3 defensive backs that left with an injury last Thursday, but maybe 2 for Seattle. Okay, Dave, running back, top three running backs.
Michael Carter's number 1, the matchup against Cincinnati. We talked about that. I've got Chris Rodriguez number 2. It's the Commanders' 1A running back against Dallas. I know if Quinton Williams comes back, it does change the way that matchup would look, but I don't know if there's another running back that I really like. I think there's a big drop-off between Carter and Rodriguez and then everybody else at the position. We can talk about the Browns running backs. If Dylan Sampson were healthy, I'd be more inclined to potentially put him at the top of the list because of what he can do as a pass catcher. But we don't know if he's going to play. I don't want to necessarily tell people to run out and get Dylan Sampson if he's not going to play. So Sanders, I guess, is the placeholder at number 3. And those are my top 3. Carter 1, Rodriguez 2, Raheem Sanders 3.
So Ramondre Stevenson, if available, would be number 1?
Yeah, but he's only out there in like 20% of CBS leagues. So you can check for him. By all means, do that. Check for him. Check for Blake Corum. But outside of those 2 and like maybe Algier, I don't know if you're going to find a running back that you can pick up and start.
So did I miss any Woody Marks news? Because why are we not talking Jawar Jordan here against the Chargers?
Because we don't know if Woody Marks is going to play or not.
Right. So the Chargers are going to be without Denzel Perryman, who apparently is their best run defender. He's suspended for 2 games. And they've had a kind of a leaky run defense to begin with, some not last week. But this is kind of the week where you maybe gamble. I don't know. Do you gamble on picking up Jawar Jordan just see because there's only one other team competing here, right? So what do you think about that philosophy?
Unless you've got a 3rd place game in your league or you've got a toilet bowl in your league, and then there are some other teams that could pick up. So you've got to be aware of that. But if it is down to 2 people, yeah, you could take the gamble on Jordan or Sampson, and then if they end up not playing, you just make a move to somebody else off the waiver wire.
Yeah, Jawar Jordan is at the Chargers on Saturday. He had 20 touches, but only 1 snap for a Houston running back inside the 5-yard line, and it did go to Nick Chubb. All right, Jamey, Tyler Shuck, Marcus Mariota, Bryce Young at quarterback, Ramondre Stevenson if available, Michael Carter, Chris Rodriguez. Look at the Cleveland situation with Dylan Sampson or Raheem Sanders. They're facing Pittsburgh, and Jawar Jordan at the Chargers. Jamey, who are the top wide receivers?
Parker Washington would be number 1, just coming off the game where he had 10 targets and 6 catches, 145 yards and a touchdown. Like you said, the tackling was an issue there for Denver, but this is now 2 games in his last 4 with at least 18.1 PPR points, and Trevor Lawrence is on fire right now. So taking on the Colts, as we saw that secondary, not very good. Matt Collins would be 2nd, with Kayshon Boutte potentially out, DeMario Douglas potentially out. We saw 2 games for Hollins without Boutte. And in those 2 games, 10 catches, 170 yards on 15 targets. So good opportunity there for him to once again be involved. He's been involved the last 2 weeks as well. I have Luther Burden 3rd, kind of the same talk that we had last week. Like if he plays and if Rome Odunze's out, then you would be starting him. The last time we saw him in week 15, 6 for 84 on 7 targets. So I think would be a big part of what we're looking at here for the Bears. But again, dealing with that ankle injury, and who knows how cautious they'll be with him. If you can't get him, the next option would be Josh Downs. got to keep an eye on the quarterback situation there for the Colts. But he now has 14 targets in the 2 starts with Phillip Rivers, and I think based on the way Rivers plays, Downs will continue to be heavily involved.
Okay. So Parker Washington, Matt Collins, Luther Burden, Josh Downs. And tight ends, Dave.
Check for Juwan Johnson. Check for Dalton Schultz. Check for Colson Loveland. All 3 are available in about 30% of CBS leagues. Juwan Johnson looks like he's going to be a factor. So hopefully he's out there on the waiver wire and you can get him and start him. Brenton Strange is my favorite tight end to pick up. 4 games with 6+ targets, 10.5 or more PPR points in 3 of those 4. And then it's a mess. It's Theo Johnson. It's Mike Gesicki. I'll even give you a bonus name. Maybe you've heard of this guy. I've sworn him off and will never put him on my fantasy team ever, ever, ever. It's Colby Parkinson. But it would be so like the fantasy gods for Colby Parkinson to have a 2-touchdown game. The week after we needed him to have a 2-touchdown game. But he's 4th on the list for me. It's Strange, it's Theo, and it's Mike Gesicki.
Who are you said Juwan Johnson at Tennessee, Dalton Schultz.
Dalton Schultz and Colson Loveland.
Colson Loveland, right? At San Francisco. How would you rank Brenton Strange with those 3?
He's behind all 3.
Jamey, how about you? Juwan Johnson, Dalton Schultz, Colson Loveland, Brenton Strange.
The only one that's close would be Loveland and Strange at this point. I think you got to look at Juwan Johnson and what he did last week in the first game without Vele against the Titans. This week should be fantastic. Schultz has just been amazing. 11.1 PPR points or more in 6 of his last 8 games. Loveland, if the receivers come back, will definitely be behind Brenton Strange. If the receivers remain out, then I think there's a big opportunity for him. So I would start him ahead of Strange, but they're basically in the same range. The one guy that I would just throw into the mix here is, if it happens again, is Taysom Hill, because, I mean, that was the best running back for the Saints. And I don't know if that was just, hey, it's your last game in New Orleans, potentially, let's give you this celebratory moment, or this is your last run with the Saints. Let's give you this chance to continue it for another 2 games. So we'll see how this plays out, because, again, first game for them without their top 3 running backs going into the season of Alvin Kamara, Kendre Miller, and Devin Neal, and he leads them in carries with 12. So coming off of a win, do they just continue to do that? And if that's the case, Taysom Hill is a must-start tight end.
And he even had 4 catches last week.
Yep, and threw a pass,
threw a touchdown.
6 targets last week. He had 7 targets all season coming into the game. So that was unexpected. But they threw the ball a ton. They threw like 50-something passes in that game, or 40. See, Tyler Shuck had 49 passes in a blowout win against the Jets. And then Taysom Hill had 1 pass that went for a late touchdown. So that was just
58 yards to Olave.
Yeah, weird game. Chris Olave, I double check, but Chris Olave, I think, was probably on the teams that advanced in the FFT Open semifinals.
Probably the best draft pick this year.
Olave. Let's see how many. We had only 2 guys with Olave, including the highest score. Yeah, both of the teams who started Olave of the 24 division winners moved on to the semifinal.
I think maybe I'll add like a superlative team this year of the best draft picks this season. So forget about the waiver wire guys, like the best draft values. So I think you got to look at Javonte Williams, Pittman, and Olave. Which I think the tight end would be.
It was Tyler Warren for a while.
I think it's probably still Tyler Warren.
Yeah. Okay.
The other running back would be Dowdle was a waiver wire guy.
Fannin was a waiver wire guy, correct?
Yeah.
Fannin was a waiver wire guy, yeah.
Was Kyle Pitts a waiver wire guy?
I think he was drafted late, be my guess.
So you might want to put Pitts in.
He's
over
probably
Tyler. I hate to say that because I love Tyler, but I mean, Pitts has really come through.
Yeah, who's the other running back that was like a good late round value?
Jalen Warren, Kenneth Gainwell.
Allen Gainwell wasn't drafted.
I would say DeAndre Swift is the first mid.
But he was drafted.
What is? Oh, ETN.
No, not Scadaboo.
Well, ETN, you had that whole Tank Bigsby and Jason.
No, you're right. ETN's definitely in the conversation.
Because I'm looking at here are the top running backs: McCaffrey, Gibbs, Taylor, Bijan, Achane, James Cook, Kyron Williams, Josh Jacobs, Travis Etienne, Javonte Williams. I think it's them. I think it's those 2. top
Do you
9.
remember what ETN's ADP was? I can look it up if you don't have it.
It was certainly round 6 or later would be my guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
I mean,
might
some
be the
people-
best there is because there's a bunch of other running backs that had partial seasons. Like I kind of said, Scadaboo,
Right.
he can't qualify. J.K. Dobbins, he can't qualify.
Right.
Yeah, there's just not enough. So maybe by default, it's our guy.
Well, now it's time for coverage you can count on, sponsored by Nationwide. Jamey, give us a DST to stream this week.
So right now it's the Giants, just because the Raiders, I know they looked better last week, but still they have been terrible. I think you got to keep an eye on a couple of situations here. One, Dave brought up a good one, the Chargers. That's that's one you can pivot to if you want to say that the Texans offense is going to be miserable. The Lions could be great if we get Max Brosmer starting. So that's one to keep an eye on. The Cowboys could be great if we're down to Josh Johnson starting and Quinnen Williams returns. But just basically playing against the Raiders has been, for the most part, a great DST to pivot to. And the Giants coming off a strong defensive game against the Vikings and they're actually favored on the road, which is crazy.
Oh.
So they can hopefully get after Geno Smith and cause some havoc there. So I like the Giants the best right now.
And the first thing you should do is check for the Patriots. They're 72% rostered.
Yep. Jaguars too. Steelers also. Maybe even the Rams. That one's a little more dicey.
Yeah. What about the Browns with the Steelers not having Metcalf? The Steelers are a tough matchup. They just don't turn the ball over.
Yeah. I mean, there's going to be so many DSTs that I'm going to say that I can't trust because they're not good defenses. And right now the Browns are not a good defense. The Giants aren't a good defense either. I know they
The
look
Giants
good
are horrible
against Minnesota. Right. And it's hard to trust those. And I might have been encouraged if Geno Smith went out there and just, laid another egg like he's done all year, but he was passable. So I wonder if the Raiders actually try and muster up together one more big effort for good old Pete Carroll. And that could end up hurting the Giants. I would be nervous to trust the Giants defense.
Yeah, I'm sure Jamie's nervous about it too. It's just not a great week. The other thing is you look at the Giants schedule, and I would say we knew going in they had the hardest schedule in the NFL on paper. The only game I can look at, be like, oh, this was a good matchup, was New Orleans in week 5, and they were awful. They scored 0 points. And last week against Minnesota, and they scored 18 points. And they had and by the way, they had a pick 6 called back. So they almost had DST 1 last week, but it wasn't to be.
It's who wants to lose that game more?
Yeah. I mean,
and the Giants have been so good at finding ways to lose games.
Well, that was coverage you can count on, sponsored by Nationwide. Now let's talk kickers. And Jamey, I saw your list. The one I would just throw one cautionary flag to is Borregales, for the same thing I said about Drake May. I think we could have some bad weather on Sunday in that Jets-Patriots game. Don't freak out. But who are the kickers to pick up?
The two guys facing each other Monday night. So you have Eddie Pinheiro and Cairo Santos, both kicking very well at the moment, and both offenses are obviously going to move the ball based on what we've seen. And then Evan McPherson is still available in about 37% of leagues, so taking on the Cardinals, and that's been one of the best matchups this season. So you mentioned the other one that I listed. I think there's a couple more. So McPherson, Pinheiro, Santos, Borregales, Harrison Mevis, indoor at this point is something that you want to pivot to if you can. And then Chris Boswell, I think we'll see the Browns defense hopefully hold up. I mean, it's a rivalry game, so I'm sure they'll come to play and get Myles Garrett a sack. But with the Steelers offense maybe getting a little stagnant, Chris Boswell can have some kicking opportunities. Just another game you want to keep an eye on the weather.